I've done several of the Bass University videos. We were trying to come up with topics, and I've done one on skipping. I don't know if you went back and watched it previously, just how I approach to skipping a jig under docks and things like that, the setups I use. And I was wanting to do something that I could tie into it. And I was thinking I would do a seminar on jig tricks, because a jig is a unique bait because it can pretty much mimic any type of bait fish all throughout the United States. I mean, you can imitate crawfish, you can imitate shad, bluegill, pretty much anything a bass eats, you can design a jig to make it mimic that forage and make it work to get bites. So I'm gonna start out talking about probably the 3 different types of jigs that I use most, and one that I just added this year that I knew I'd heard about it, but I hadn't ever really played with it much until this year. So the 3 main types of jigs you've got are an Arky style head, which is what I traditionally use as a skipping jig. And I've got a bunch of samples here that I'll pass around, or we can come up and talk about after when we get a break or something like that. But I got a bunch of stuff here. So the first style I'm going to talk about is an Arky style jig, and all the different ways you can modify it, because that's the thing I see a lot of people do is they get a jig, they just take it out of the pack, and they try to make it work all year long just the way it comes out of the package. And to me, there's different little things you can do to make that bait more effective throughout the course of the year, throughout different bites like pre-spawn bite, bed fishing bite, post-spawn, all the way up to a summertime bite. And that's kind of what I'm going to go through with that Arky style head. So this particular jig is a 1/2 ounce shooter lures jig. It's hand tied, and it's, as far as colors go, I usually always throw something that's very natural. And the dirty versus clear water thing is something that, let me get this jig here. This is, if I had to choose one color to start with, this is it's a brown and blue jig. This is a Demiki Mama jig, but this is a jig you can use in dirty or clear water. All I have to do is change the color of my trailer. If I'm fishing clear water with this jig, I put a green pumpkin trailer on it, because it still looks very natural. It's got a lot of brown in it, looks very natural looking for clear water. And then if I go around to the, say I pull up and I'm fishing a stretch of docks out on the main lake where the water's fairly clear, but we had a rain a couple of days ago and the back of the creeks are dirty, and I run to the back of the creek 5 minutes later, the only thing I've got to do is change the color of my trailer. So I'll take that green pumpkin trailer off, put a flipping blue or sapphire blue, something like that, and it still looks really good on that combination because of the blue mixed in that brown skirt material. But let's go back to talking about the Arky style jig head. So I'm going to talk about the 3 different shapes of the jig heads, then we'll get into the different styles of actual jigs. So you've got your Arky style head, which is great around rock. Pretty much that's your all-purpose jig head. I mean, you can do anything with it. You can fish it offshore, fish it shallow, skip it under docks. You can even swim it if you want to, but it doesn't come through grass as good as a traditional swim jig that I'll talk about later. So you've got your Arky style head, and then you've got your swim jig style head, which is more of a pointed head. And if you'll come up after we finish and look at all these, I'll show you where you can see the distinct little characteristics. I wish I had a little camera up here. I could stick this under where people could see it up on the screen. We got anything like that?
Actually, when we do the breakout session, you'll be able to see that.
All right, so this is a swim jig. It's got a pointed head, and the line tie is more in line with the hook. And the whole key to a swim jig, and I see a lot of swim jigs that the line tie sticks out from the lead too far. That's something you want to pay attention to when you're buying a good swim jig. You want to make sure the line tie is kind of recessed in the lead, especially if you're fishing around grass, because what that does is the grass will actually wedge in between the lead and the line tie. So, and you can't jerk it off. Even if you're throwing 50-pound braid, you can't snatch it hard enough to clear a piece of hydrilla or a piece of eelgrass that's wedged in there off of that bait. So make sure you look for one that's got that line tie recessed in the lead just a little bit, so you don't have that little gap for it to get hung in. So that's just a traditional swim jig head, and I'm sure everyone knows the football head design. And that's something I use strictly offshore. If I'm dragging bottom, fishing rocks, it falls.
It's Mike Iaconelli. This is Bass U TV.
Here's what's awesome about Bass U TV.
You get the top instructors.
Real tools that help you catch more fish consistently.
And that's why you want to check out Bass U TV.
Join the Bass U family.
Welcome to Bass U TV.